The rising rate of homelessness in the North Country over the last few years is pretty eye-popping. In some counties, it's doubled since 2022. That's largely because of rising rents, the cost of living, which surged after the COVID-19 pandemic. We talk with people who have been without homes and their advocates about what's being done to help. That's today's story of the day.
Support for Story of the Day comes from Long Run Wealth, an SEC-registered investment advisor in Lake Placid, providing comprehensive wealth management, retirement, and financial planning solutions. LongRunWealth.com. And the Devlin Inn and Suites, Lake Placid, welcoming families, athletes, and groups to the Olympic Village, offering Adirondack mountain views and dog-friendly accommodations. TheDevlinNY.com.
Hey, I'm David Sommerstein. It's Wednesday, July 1st. Happy Canada Day to all. First up, extreme heat is upon us here in the North Country and across the Northeast. Environmental advocates are highlighting a bill that would require state health officials to track heat-related deaths. Caroline Chen is with New York Lawyers for the Public Interest. She says a state mandate would mirror reporting requirements already in place in New York City.
At the state level, Department of Health has a heat risk and illness dashboard, and that is to allow us to understand the level of heat-related health risks in respective areas across the state. There's no accounting that, as far as we know, that's publicly available, counting the number of deaths, whether it's heat stress or heat-exacerbated deaths at the New York State level.
Chen says the tracker would help inform mitigation efforts, such as the deployment of air conditioners or cooling centers. The legislature passed this bill this session. Governor Kathy Hochul has until the end of the year to sign it. As homelessness has become more visible, even in the rural North Country, social service providers are trying new ways to help people find stable housing so they can rebuild their lives. Richard Haller reports.
57-year-old Stephen Charles Cadu isn't homeless anymore. He was laid off from a pizza restaurant in Potsdam after its indoor dining closed during COVID.
Finding a safe place in town to stay, which I ended up at a dealer's house. And I'm like, I might as well stay here. It's safer than dying on the street. And they let me do that.
At the dealer's place, he started using methamphetamine.
And I think I stayed there almost a year or less. I can't really remember, to tell you the truth, because I was using. And when you're using, my mind is not working the way it is now.
Now, Cadu's at the Seaway Valley Recovery Center in Ogdensburg. They help people struggling with drug and alcohol addiction. Cadu says living on the street became a cycle that felt impossible to break.
Because you're walking a lot, you're not showering every day like you should be, you're not taking care of your teeth every single day like you should be. You're just not living right because you're on the street.
33-year-old Brandon Lee Ashley is also turning his life around at Seaway Valley. He was homeless for 4 years and lost his housing after getting out of jail and couldn't afford a place to stay in Ogdensburg.
I went on a rough road. Nobody would hire me. I went into drugs, cocaine, or whatever, sleeping on a riverbank and all of that, underneath logs or whatever, living like Tarzan.
Lee Ashley says Seaway Valley connected him to other programs. He now lives in an apartment and receives food stamps. For a long time, homelessness has looked different in the North Country compared to big cities. The homeless population remained mostly invisible, with people living with friends and family, couch surfing, living in the woods underneath bridges, away from the public eye. Jeff Rivensnyder is executive director at the Independent Living Center in Messina.
When you think of homelessness, you think of the metropolitan areas, in your face, shopping cart going down the sidewalk. It's different in the rural areas in terms of you don't see it. You don't really see it.
But that's changing. In places like Ogdensburg, Messina, Watertown, Gouverneur, Plattsburgh, and Glens Falls, a visible homeless population is emerging. Joseph Sieber has been the commissioner at the Department of Social Services in St. Lawrence County since 2020. He says during the pandemic, there were lots of supports for people on the edge, but then that disappeared.
So I think COVID really, not only did it suppress the economy, it created a situation that was almost like a slingshot effect. As soon as COVID went away and some of those protections expired, all of a sudden, boom, now we got a whole bunch of people pushed into a homeless situation all at once. And it exploded in the area in 2022.
According to Mountain Lake PBS, a large majority of those people are locals. Most hold at least one job. Sieber says the rising cost of living and more people facing mental health challenges and drug addiction are big factors.
On top of that, things are becoming more and more expensive. Housing costs have skyrocketed. So we're seeing more and more people becoming homeless or on the verge of becoming homeless that maybe were okay a while ago, but now that they're financially on the cusp of having to go that route.
Even though homelessness is becoming more visible, there are still a lot of people we don't see. Courtney Toms, the deputy director at the Independent Living Center in Messina, says that homelessness in the North Country is even higher than what the numbers show.
The unfortunate reality is HUD doesn't consider a couch surfing individual as homeless. They're not homeless if they slept somewhere the night before and had a shelter. They are homeless if they were somewhere the night before in a place not meant for human habitation. So a car, a bench, a park.
This makes assessing homelessness and getting federal funding for it difficult in rural areas like the North Country. HUD does a point-in-time study that counts unhoused people on a single day. Again, Living Center Director Jeff Rivensnyder.
On a cold day in February, they're laying on somebody's kitchen floor. You know, they're holed up in an abandoned building with a blanket. So to be able to count the actual numbers is a virtual impossibility on a single day.
Over the last year, cuts to social safety net programs like Medicaid, SNAP, and Social Security Disability are making matters worse. So, social service providers are having to do more to help people. Joseph Sieber says St. Lawrence County created a caseworker unit that supports people after they've been placed in housing.
One of the first things that we did here that I started was a homeless services unit, which hadn't existed before, to try and not just get people off the street and put them in a hotel room when it's cold out, but to try and do some case management and work with people to help them get back on track.
Sieber says it's working. In 2022, the number of people placed in temporary housing was triple that of this year. Now, more people get things like counseling and transportation to help them find permanent housing. Jessie Martin is a recovery coach at Seaway Valley. She says people just need help.
I have one client. I think we started meeting 4 years ago, and it started, honestly, not with a ton of productive paperwork. It was him coming in for 10 minutes for coffee, and then eventually it got to where he was coming in every single day and staying for the whole day. Now he has housing, he's in recovery, the whole thing. But that takes time. You have to be persistent and meet with these people and build the relationships and not give up on them.
It'll take thousands of those one-on-one interactions to help more people get their lives back on track. Martin says temporary help alone isn't enough. Lasting support matters, not just while people are homeless, but after they begin rebuilding their lives. For North Country Public Radio, I'm Richard Haller in Canton.
Richard did this story as an intern, but I'm excited to say that today is his first day as a full-time reporter with NCPR. He's covering the St. Lawrence Valley. Super congrats to Richard. You'll be hearing a lot from him going forward. Music today by Eddie Lawrence of Saranac Lake and Ben Sharon of Watertown. I'm David Sommerstein, North Country Public Radio.